Hello everyone, and welcome back to yet another video. So, this card quite literally just came in, and I thought, let's just make a video about it, how we're gonna tear it down and see what kind of VRM we get on this, because, yeah, so this is an HD 5870, and as far as I know, this is not a reference PCB 5870, so there might be something interesting for the VRM. But yeah, so this is like an XFX 5870, and there's two reasons why I bought this. The first reason is the heatsink, because I like collecting weird custom GPU heatsinks like this one. And also I just kind of wanted to try a 5870. Lots of people have been saying, oh, they're like pretty fun to mess with. But I just had a very, very big disdain for anything legacy AMD. Or like, is this even AMD? Is 5000 series AMD already, or is this still ATI? I'm not too sure. Like anything that takes legacy drivers is usually an avoid for me, because I've had some terrible experiences with it. But now where I've run my 6850 for a bit, I was like, yeah, maybe it's not too bad. Maybe I could actually give it another try. So I picked up this 5870 because it was cheap and it had this heatsink on it. That's the reason. So yeah, let's take a look at what we have here. I think, yeah, like the first thing is just like we have, so this has a fan, just like a 3-pin header, and then you have this, which is like just a potentiometer, which I guess controls the fan speed, and I guess you're supposed to put this into like your I/O. I'm probably gonna replace the fan because this is kind of weird, but also this is a low profile fan. And I probably have something that's higher performance than this that I can put on here. But anyway, let's get rid of the cooler. I want to take a look at the VRM on this thing, because it's not a reference PCB, I think. I don't think this is a reference. So yeah, it's an XFX card. HD 587X. Does it say how much VRAM it has? 1 GB. Okay. I guess the 2 GB also always have like memory chips on the back. I'm not too sure. Like on 6000 series, you can get higher capacity ones. They just use double capacity memory chips. But on 5000 series, like because the Bullseye has a video about a 5870 Toxic, which is a 2 gig. There, his card has memory chips on the back. Mine doesn't, and mine's also 1 gig. So. Kind of inconclusive. Does this just... Is there like glue on this? It's one... Yeah, this has glue on it. Why? Why would you glue that? Anyway. Oh. That was a pretty nice thermal paste application. That's like perfect. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think this is the reference VRM. Like, the reference is a 4-phase still, but... Oh, wow, this is very good attachment. Yeah, this... Oh, wait. Wait. Is this using the same DeArmoses as the Toxic is? If these are like those Renaissance things, then this is the same VRM you get on a Toxic. Yeah, they're Renaissance. R2J2, yeah. R2J2 0802 or 0602. Those are the same ones that the Sapphire 5870 Toxic has. So this is the same. I don't know if the controller is the same. This is a UPI controller. UP6213AJ, I think. Yeah, I think the Toxic also had a UPI controller. But this is an XFX card. Did they like share PCB designs, or did they just happen to make very similar cards? Okay. Yeah, so these DeArmoses, because I did actually rewatch the video that Bullseye made about his Toxic, like in preparation for this, because maybe he was mentioning anything about 5870s. He pointed out that these are 40 amp DeArmoses, and they are massive. And I can verify that. These are massive. These are like bigger than high-end power stages these days. And these are only 40 amp. Which, you know, it's a fairly old card. 5000 series, I think this is a 40 nanometer GPU. Though to be fair, the IR3550 was already available around the 40 nanometer days, because my GTX 580, one of them has them. But yeah, so this is a 40 amp Diamos, and they are really bad when it comes to efficiency compared to modern things, because these things produce almost like 11 watts at like 35 or 40 amps. So those heatsinks that were like barely attached to them, you better attach them properly. But yeah, okay, I want to know what memory chips this has. I can just... I have my pliers here. Yeah, if you want to remove like heatsinks from memory chips, don't like try to pull them off, because that has a very high chance of like ripping the chip off the board with it. But if you like twist it like this, you have a much lesser chance of ripping off the chip. And I'm just gonna go get my pliers, so be right back. That's gonna be more proper. Let's get the cooler off the way. Well, that cooler is heavy. Heavier than I thought. Please be... There's Samsung. Wow. Okay. That's Samsung E-Die. 1 gigabit. That's like the best chip. Like, for NVIDIA at least. Like on NVIDIA cards, the best 1 gigabit GDDR5 chip is Samsung 1 gigabit E-Die, in my opinion. G-Die is also pretty good. It actually clocks higher out of the box than E-Die. But once you start overvolting them, like once you volt mod a thing, E-Die is always better because it has better voltage scaling and scale to cold, whereas G-Die actually has hot scaling, or like negative cold scaling to a certain extent. Yeah, Samsung chips on AMD cards, like I don't know why, but it's like really rare. But maybe that's just because most of my AMD cards are from the 28 nanometer days, and even the NVIDIA cards almost universally have Hynix chips. But yeah, so this is on Samsung E-Die. Like you can tell it's E-Die because it says E right here. Like for GDDR5, and I think also GDDR6, like that, before the dash thing. And HC04 should be the bin. I don't remember what bin this is, but I think I've seen this before on like 500 or 400 series NVIDIA. So that's pretty cool. Like assuming that on AMD these work the same they do on NVIDIA, because like on NVIDIA these chips are great. These are in my opinion the best 1 gigabit GDDR5 chips. But there's like, the thing is, so on 6000 series, you can mod the memory timings. And 5000 series are basically like an earlier version of the same architecture. Like this is Terascale, and then 6000 series is Terascale 2. And as far as I know, they're like basically the same thing. So you can probably mod the memory timings on these as well. Though don't quote me on that, because I have a 5770 where apparently you can't. So I'm not too sure. But like, because the memory timing mod works on AMD, you can't do it on NVIDIA, at least not on GDDR5 NVIDIA or newer. So the thing is, on AMD, it's not just about like how high the memory chips clock, it's also how good of a memory strap you can run on them. Where, for example, some Hynix 2 gigabit AFR for like HD 7000 series is like really, really good at. And even some Elpida chips, 2 gigabit, are really, really good at memory straps. And I've also been told the 1 gigabit Elpidas are also pretty good at memory straps. Now, I have no idea how good the Samsung chips are at memory straps, because I've never memory strap modded in an AMD card with Samsung chips. This is only my second... I keep saying AMD, I'm not actually sure if it's even an AMD card. I don't know when they switched, when it became AMD and when it was still ATI. Like, it doesn't say AMD one here, but this is not a reference card, so... I don't know. Maybe it's an ATI, maybe it's an AMD. It doesn't say here. But yeah, like the only other Radeon, let's just call it Radeon, the only other Radeon card I have with Samsung chips is my RX 580, which as far as you know, you can't mod memory timings on. And it's also completely it's completely different architecture. It uses 8 gigabit chips, which is 8 times the density of these ones. So yeah, very different. But it kind of cool. Now I have Samsung chips. I was kind of hoping for Hynix actually, because then I could like do some testing, like how necessary because my 6850 has Elpida chips, which don't clock that well, but are said to take good timings. And I was kind of hoping for Hynix on this one, so I can like compare them, because they're the same chips on a very similar GPU. But this is gonna be interesting too. So Samsung chips, yeah. And as for the rest of the PCB, do we want to clean the GPU? I haven't tried turning this on, by the way. I don't know if this card works. I think it was sold as working, but I haven't verified that. Okay, it's an ATI. It says ATI on the GPU, so that debate is settled. So 6000 series is what became AMD, because that one says AMD on it. Yeah, so says ATI on it, so this is 5000 series is still ATI. Apparently we have serial number 1006. I'm actually not too sure if that's the serial number, but it's like different on every GPU. So this one is number 1006. That might be the actual serial number, which is high. Is there like any other serial number on this? Yeah, there is another serial number, which is also high. Yeah. I just always like looking at serial numbers to like look for funny numbers on cards. I have like GTX 280, number 420. And then some other thing that I think 356 or something. And whatever. But yeah, so looking at the PCB. So we have two 6-pins for power. Which is twice the amount of 6-pins that my 6850 has. I mean, this is a... I mean, it's an 8 segment, but the 6000 series had the 6970. I don't think... Well, there was a 5970, but that was a dual GPU of like 2 of these. That's what the Ares is. Like, remember the Asus Ares? That was a custom version of a 5970, which is basically 2 of these on one thing. So yeah. So judging by the VRM, like this is the same. Basically exactly the same V-Core VRM that the Sapphire Toxic has. And since that is like the highest end version that Sapphire sold, I'm gonna go with this is probably pretty good. I don't know how much power or current this core actually pulls. The 6850 is very tame. This one probably gonna draw a bit more, just because it's like the high-end core, and the 6850 is like the step-down high-end core. But it's probably fine. We have a decent-sized output filter too. That's like 2 or 3 times what I have on the 6850. So that's cool. Then VDDCI, I'm assuming this is VDDCI, because that's what it usually is. And I'm assuming this is memory, which also kind of makes sense, because that puts the VRM in like the middle of the memory power plane. Not that they haven't done this. They have like... There's a 7970 PCB where the memory VRM is down here, and then the memory power plane goes like this. So it's like at the very end of it. But I'm assuming this is memory. That's VDDCI. This is basically the same kind of VRM that the 6850 also has. Where's the controllers though? Like this could be one of them. That could also be a BIOS chip though it like has the little capacitors around it. That kind of looks like a PWM controller. Yeah, and then that might be the other one. Is that the same thing? Yeah, that's an APW 7165. And that is an APW 7165. Okay, so memory controller, memory voltage controller here, V-Core voltage controller here. VDDCI voltage controller here, and then minor rail stuff. That might be PEX. Might be BIOS chip. Does this thing have dual BIOS? I don't see a switch, so probably no. So I guess it doesn't have dual BIOS. But I don't know. One of these is the BIOS chip. The other thing I do not know. Is that a UP? That's a UP something. So I guess that's like another minor rail, and that's probably the BIOS chip then. Yeah, that looks like a BIOS chip part number. And then that's another minor rail. Something. Yeah, so that's kind of cool. So I seem to have gotten a pretty decent 5870. Assuming that the Toxic is a pretty good 5870. So yeah, this will be cool. I don't think the controllers are gonna be any issue with this. It's probably the exact same controller for Vico that the Toxic has, and Bullseye found a datasheet for that one, I think. And yeah, so looks like I got a pretty good card. Let's take a look at the heatsink. So, first issue is this is not gonna mount on any big GPU, sadly. But I guess I should have been expecting that. I mean, I was gonna use it for like smaller GPUs anyway, but nah, you know, bigger core plate could have been okay. Yeah, then we have very weird mounting holes. Yeah, does this even do like standard NVIDIA spacing? Because like so A2 is what this card just used, right? And then the A1 holes look like they're supposed to be NVIDIA, I think. Maybe I can look for a datasheet for this heatsink. But the A1 holes, they're like pretty far away from the A2 holes. That looks like it's like GTX 200 series spacing. I can actually test that. So here's my 260. Yeah, that's 200 series spacing. So this thing doesn't even mount on standard NVIDIA. And with standard NVIDIA, I mean like what they had from the 200 to 20 series. 400 to 20 series. Which is, you know, like what, a long time. So unless like one of the offset ones, actually it looks like one of the offset, actually no. Maybe B1? I'm not too sure. But maybe some of these are compatible. Like the backplate has a lot of holes. Actually, that's way more than this is. Yeah. But you know, I might just put this on the 6850 to be honest. Let's see about the fan. So can this pop out? It's like really tight. Is it like maybe better to try and pop out it this way? Yep. That's coming out. Okay. Now those clips are probably not gonna work with any thicker fans, because they are very much for this low profile one. So 12 volts, 0.35 amps. Yeah, like your typical low profile. I'd think like 10 millimeters of low profile heatsink fan. I mean, probably a decent fan. It's just low profile, and I could put like an Arctic P12 into this because it's probably 120 millimeter. I mean, probably. I don't have a ruler with me. Actually, I do have one. How long is this? Yeah, it's 120. So there's a 120 mil fan. You know, on one side it needs this thing, on the other side it's a low profile fan, so I'm probably not gonna use this. I will just kind of look at... You know, I did actually order 2 Arctic P12s, but it seems like DHL lost them a while ago, so I'm gonna have to see if those still show up. But I'm gonna try putting one of those onto this, because, like, I mean, it looks decent. Like, yeah, it's only 4 heat pipes, but it does make double use of them, and it looks like it's a pretty good area coverage. And, I mean, considering the size of the cold plate, you couldn't really fit more than 4 heat pipes into this anyway, so... That looks like a pretty decent heatsink. It's just gonna be a matter of, like, what does this fit on? And also, I could make... Nah, that wouldn't fit on most cards, because, like, that collides. I was thinking of, like, maybe mounting it like this, and then when you have an E-power, that would be, like, perfect for E-powered cards. But this would probably also, like, interfere with the motherboard. So it's gonna have to be like this, which... yeah. But still, like... Looks like a decent heatsink that I could maybe make some use of. I'm probably... Do I put it back onto the 5870? No, I'm just gonna find something else to put on the 5870. And I'm gonna probably reapply the... at least for the power, like... At least for the VRM. I'm gonna reapply the heatsinks it came with. It's just that I'm gonna have to renew that thermal tape. Because these things need cooling. These things need cooling. The memory chips, with enough airflow, they're probably fine like that. I'm not too big of a fan of having like memory chip heatsinks because it tends to interfere with like a lot of water blocks and coolers. So I usually just remove them and then just let airflow do the rest. Like even the GDDR3 on the 260s, which gets very hot, was fine with just airflow, even like through a fin stack from like an Accelero heatsink. So, yeah. And I guess that's it for the video. So took a look at a, I guess, surprisingly good 5870 and a heatsink that I can potentially do things with. I don't know yet. Yeah, maybe just gonna put this onto the 6850. I have an Accelero on it currently, but that like it looks really weird because it's really long for a very short card, and that makes accessing the PCB kind of hard. So maybe this is gonna be better for that. Anyway, video is done, and until next time, goodbye.
20 minutes later.
Oh, this is the point where the story of this card ends. Because it's dead. So, yeah, I really should have checked the card, or like at least tried to turn it on before making the video about it, because the core on this thing is super short hit out. Like core, memory, VDDCI, everything is short hit out. And I can show you right here. So we take that, you know, that's short, and it's not just like one, I'm not just probing the ground side. This is the ground side. So we have like 200 milliohms for the core. And, you know, 400 milliohms for the memory. And also 400 milliohms for VDDCI. So this thing is dead. It didn't stop me from trying to turn it on, of course, but, well, the only thing it's done is make my motherboard 00 and burn my finger. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a very linear burn mark where I had the edge of the dial on my thumb with, where I was like checking, oh, is VCore turning on? Yes, it was, very quickly, and because this thing is super short hit out, it immediately heated up to what I think was like at least 80, maybe 100 degrees. So, it's dead. It's very dead. And I have no idea why. Like, I went back and checked. The seller literally said that they tested the card just before sending it out and it worked perfectly fine. And I'm sitting here and I have like all the main power rails shorted out. And I don't know why. I've already cleaned the card to like make sure it's not like just like some sort of debris shorting something. No. the core on this is just super dead. And now I'm actually seeing, like, is that a missing piece of the die? What is that? There's like a, you can see that, right? There's like the spot on the core that I don't think was there before. That almost looks like a little bubble in the die. What the hell is that? Oh no, it's, huh? Okay, I guess it was just debris or something. Anyway. I no longer have a 5870. Well, I never had a 5870. I don't think I killed it. I don't think anything I did damaged this thing. Because, like, there's not many ways how a core suddenly shorts. It's either, like, it fails by itself or you shoot way too much voltage into it. And I don't know how me taking the heatsink off could have done either of that. So, yeah. This thing is dead. And there's no hope of repairing it because the core and probably the memory chips are just all completely and utterly dead. So maybe I can get an E-power out of this if I, like, cut this. But, like, it's only a 4-phase 40 amp E-power. I don't know. This thing's not coming back. It's dead. And I was looking forward to having a 5870, but I guess either I was scammed or the card just decided to randomly die. Yeah. So, don't be confused if you never see this card ever again. Or maybe the next time you see it, it becomes an E-power. Yeah. That's a bummer. It was a nice PCB and Samsung chips. I wanted to really know what Samsung... And just a 5870. But, card dead. That's gonna just be it. I don't want to drag the video out too much anymore. But, yeah. Guess I should have tested it before making the video.